Hi everyone, this is Eric Bond, the founder of Beat the GMAT, and welcome to the Write Like an Expert series. Today we're going to be analyzing the essay questions for this year's 2012-2013 INSEAD MBA application. So if you're new to the Write Like an Expert series, this is an annual set of webinars that we host for the Beat the GMAT community, where we ask top MBA admissions experts to join us for a live webinar to analyze each essay question for this year's top business schools. And joining us today, we have the great pleasure of co-hosting this session with Admissionado, as well as seeing a presentation led by Yaron Dehan. So a little bit about both Admissionado as well as Yaron. So Admissionado is an admissions consulting firm that helps applicants gain admissions to the top undergraduate and graduate programs worldwide. Their experts are unique because they consider themselves to be diagnosticians, where they spend a lot of work and effort in deeply assessing each candidate's profiles and providing targeted feedback and receiving targeted feedback from each candidate to help the applicant develop a very sharp and memorable application. So after this session, definitely check out admissionado.com. Look at their website of services as well as some of the great resources they have on admissionado.com. Yaron Dehan is nicknamed the Professor. He is our featured guest lecturer today, and he's Admissionado's head consultant. He's got very deep expertise in MBA programs in Europe, and he's also currently based in Europe. And in the past has been a lecturer at several universities, including the many French business schools, as well as the University of Paris. So, Yaron, it's a real pleasure to have you joining us to lead us through this INSEAD MBA application essay questions for this year. So, in a moment, I'm going to hand it off to Yaron. He's going to spend probably between 30 and 40 minutes going through his presentation. And at the end of the presentation, if we have some time left over, we're going to ask Yaron to stick around to answer your questions live in a live moderated Q&A right on the INSEAD MBA Watch comment wall. So if you have questions during the session, feel free to post them as comments on the INSEAD comment wall, and our team is going to be reviewing the questions coming in and during the Q&A posting them one by one for Yaron to answer. So, Yaron, thank you so much for joining us, and at this point I'm going to hand it off to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Eric. I'm very happy to be doing this presentation with you guys. So we're here. My name is Yaron with Admissionado. In the series of Beat the GMAT Write Like an Expert series, and we are breaking it down with INSEAD. That's our mission today. So let's get cracking. Done. Okay, the foundation. Boom, 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 boom. All right, this is the stuff that is true for every business school. That's why I call it the foundation. It's the things that all MBA programs will look for. And then we'll get into the ACN stuff. This is only one slide. So the first thing is be a shooting star. Soon we'll get into what exactly that means, but basically the school wants to see that your trajectory is, up, 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 and that they can trace it onwards. All right. The second thing is have one goal, one, only one, because that's the reason you're going to business school. The entire, of course, application revolves around this one thing that you want to do, your dream, your goal. So you need to have one goal. The third thing is leadership, 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 and leadership, meaning that leadership is really, really important. So if you have leadership, it's, you try to milk it as much as possible, try and get it in the essays, in the resume, in your recommendations, and everything you can. And if you don't have, try and get at least the potential of leadership, which will really help you out. We understand that not everybody has been a leader and has had teams of 50. It's actually relatively rare, but at the same time, we want to know that you can do it. And the fourth thing is to give the AdCom windows into all your diverse, wild, multiple activities that still all lead to the one goal. So, we want to hear about your sailing and your racing and your volunteer work and all the things you love and care about, but still, you should be getting something out of it. You're not just telling them because you have it. But most importantly, come alive. Just like Frankenstein here. Your essays are more than just a collection of short writing about your job and your career and your goals and your family life. Somehow, it has to be you. It has to jump off the page. Your essays are the only way for the AdCom to know who you really are. So, this is really your chance to jump off the screen, to give the feeling of being somebody, and somebody that, of course, that they want to be a part of their school, which is a very important part of it. Okay, so let's start with a little bit of kind of very basic special stuff about INSEAD, things that sets it apart from other schools. So we have very, very, very international school. 92% of the students are international, although it's in France or Singapore, of course. 82% of the folks are getting jobs outside of France. So it means not only are people coming from everywhere, but people are going to everywhere. You won't see a statistic like this for any American school, and that's why they're really famous for being really international. It's not like, okay, come here and be a part of our culture, but really come here in the multiple that you are and do all the things that you want and go out into the world. So it appeals to a lot of candidates who have this kind of experience, or at least want this kind of experience, and it's something that they sell very, very strongly. It is also a one-year program, which means that it's cheaper. Your opportunity cost is, of course, less in general, and faster. But at the same time, you'll see that people are getting this very similar or same jobs as from a two-year program in the U.S. So McKinsey, Boston Consulting, Bain. It's out of the top 3 recruiters for the 2011 class, we see 107 went to McKinsey, 61 to Boston, 52 to Bain. So it's a lot of folks going to consulting. Of course, they have 2 intakes, so it's a very big program. But you can get a really lovely consulting job, just as you can get from a 2-year program. So one school, 2 campuses was their motto. Fontainebleau and Singapore are the 2 famous big campuses, and of course there's Abu Dhabi, which they've added, and there's various exchange programs, if I'm not mistaken, to Wharton and to Kellogg, and other schools everywhere around the world, which is very, very cool for the same reasons of international. You can kind of tailor your international experience to what you want. And they also have 2 intakes, of course, January and September, which means, as I always tell people, if you don't get into Harvard in September, you can always try INSEAD in January. All right, let's start with the essays. Describe your job. As the first job essay, they have 3, and the job essays, and then they have the full-on essays. So, briefly summarize your current and most recent job, including the nature of work, major responsibilities, and where relevant, employees under your supervision, size of budgets, clients, products, and results achieved. Okay, if you just read the question, it can sound a little bit boring, but there are really a lot of ways to have fun with this essay and to make it super exciting and to do really interesting things, at the same time getting out what you need to get out. So, here we are in Mario Land. First thing, be a shooting star. Again, what does this mean? The first thing that I would say, although I don't know if I put it first, is the first trick, actually, that I like is promotions, meaning, okay, this first question asks you to summarize your current or most recent job. Now, if you have a promotion, which maybe you do, to get into this job, it's very good to start off with a promotion. So, after I was promoted to, and you can also end if you have some sort of promise of a promotion. So, and by the way, within 3 months, my boss told me I'm going to get promoted to. Again, this is a nice way to establish this very good upward trajectory. So, who are our enemies and who are our friends? Our enemies are responsibilities, and our friends are achievements. What does that mean? Does that mean you could write, I lead a team of 5, and I take care of X. I do Z, whatever. Or you could say, I led my team of 5 to basically make the biggest sale in company history. Oh, wow, amazing. At the same time, you're getting out your responsibilities, but you're maximizing the potential of what you can get out of this question. Very good. Very, very good. Next enemy, jargon or tech speak. And this doesn't apply just for tech industries. I see a lot, especially in the finance world, actually, people who they come and they talk about financial products and things like this. And in 250 words, you don't really have a lot of space for the financial product. So we want to know more on the results. Okay, you had a financial project, but how much money did it make? how much efficiency, how much more efficient did you become? Good stuff. So we want clear, easy storytelling. Another enemy, trudging through it, meaning I did this, I did that, I did this, and then I did that, and then I did this, and then you end the essay. It's not very exciting to read these sorts of essays, so I wrote bing, bang, boom, but what I really mean is kind of having this kind of like impact, achievement, each one with a nice result, a nice promotion, a nice award, all of these things. Again, you don't want to be like everybody else, but you want to stand out. So, lovely ways to stand out are getting raises, getting awards, getting promotions, being selected for specific responsibilities. Let's say you're selected to represent the company to the outside world. Very, very good. Then forgetting parts of the question is definitely a big, big enemy. There are a lot of parts, and we try and hit all of them when they're relevant. So try and hit all of the parts that they ask. And forgetting your goals, meaning that even though they don't ask for your goals, and you're not expected to answer the essay with your goals, and your goals don't necessarily have to be in this essay either, but keep in mind that overall you should be leading with your essays, with I would say even all your essays, towards whatever goal you have. So if you're proposing management in energy, try and show your achievements and your responsibilities that had to do with management in the energy industry. It will help you out to make a convincing argument. Okay, so that's describe your job. Essay 2. Please give a full description of your career since graduating from university. If you were to remain with your present employer, what would be your next steps in terms of position? I see a lot of clients flip out about this one because it's 250 words for your entire life. Amazing. It's very, very hard. But you can, if you ace it, it can come out very, very beautiful. So let's take a look at how to go about doing this essay. So describe your job. First thing is target your goals. Like I just said for essay 1, and again, it's applicable to all essays, but really more so in these job essays. Think about where you're going, meaning you're going from a point to another point, and it should be leading somewhere. And that's why I used, by the way, the bullseye as my little bullet points there, because really you're aiming at one thing, one target, you have one arrow, you want one arc, and those are your goals. And this is the arc, by the way, in this essay that should be leading to those goals. Next, use achievements. So like in the previous essay, whenever possible, we want to avoid responsibilities. Not that they're necessarily bad. If you have amazing responsibilities like I oversee a factory of 300 workers, of course you want to get it in. But where possible, you do want to transform them into achievements because you can essentially get almost all of your responsibilities out by showing an achievement. Focus on leadership. We've mentioned this before. Pull out whatever achievement, whatever leadership responsibility you have. This can be actual management, which is the obvious thing. You may not have that. In that case, it can be things like mentoring or teaching or project management or things like that. Next, use the best, most amazing superlatives you can find. What we mean here is not to say, "Oh, I have the best project," because that's totally subjective. But you want to use kind of superlative language to show actual things that you have done. So, for example, if you have led the biggest project or made the biggest sale, or if you've had the fastest results, these things, when they are true, they can be really, really strong in an essay. Promotions are the key. Actually, I should have written promotions are key because you can also get into INSEAD without promotions if you've moved from job to job, and there's plenty of other organizations. But if you do have promotions, definitely play them up. And if you don't, if you've moved, let's say, from job to job, try and show how each job was an advance. You were getting somewhere new. You're not staying in the same place. It's not just a lateral movement, but bigger responsibilities, more exciting stuff, better pay, so on and so forth. When possible, meaning when it's true, since they do ask you about your next step in terms of position, if you can end the essay with a concrete promise for future promotion, that is totally awesome. I've had a few folks who have applied to INSEAD and have done that, and because, but you have to kind of secure a promise from management, which is not always that easy, and we understand if it's not. If not, then you just go with kind of like your next position that you suppose you would get, which would be the natural promotion for you. Okay. The next essay, which was a new essay in a application that doesn't tend to change too much. If you are currently not working, what are you doing, and what do you plan to do until you start the MBA program, if applicable? So, my tip is that you should be doing lots of other things, and all of them, I mean every single one, should be leading to your single and unique and impressive goal. So, you might think, okay, I don't have a job, I can never get into business school. It's not true. I had a client actually last year at INSEAD who, after a few years of not working, of traveling the world and doing his thing, doing interesting things nonetheless, but he got accepted without being, without working, because he was able to tell the story in the right way and present the things that he was doing as useful to what he wanted to do. And it is possible. And so here they come out, and actually they're showing you that it's possible by asking you a question about it. Haha, finally, essay number 1. I wrote finally, it's a bad joke, I'm sorry, but it's because they have 3 job essays and then you get to essay 1, Anyhow, so let's read through this. Give a candid description of yourself, stressing the personal characteristics you feel to be your strengths and weaknesses, and the main factors which have influenced your personal development, giving examples when necessary. Okay. Very interesting essay. Actually, I think the entire INSEAD application is very, very interesting. It's one of my favorite applications. I think every consultant must have their own favorite applications, and this is one of mine, because you have a lot of questions and a lot of opportunities to tell them who you are in different ways, and it's really good for you, because you can show them who you are and why you want to do what you want to do. So there's a lot of combinations here that are possible. I'm going to give some tips, but really this is an essay that is more flexible than a lot of the other essays, and think first about how you're going to answer the question. Meaning how you want to answer the question. What are the strengths you want to show? So when they say candid, they mean it, and when they say personal, they mean that too. But the key here is to show through stories, meaning you shouldn't be just saying, okay, my strength is that I'm really clever and I'm a good worker and I'm funny. Are you funny? Tell us some jokes and improve it. Are you clever? Show us that you've overcome really difficult intellectual problems, at work or otherwise. I mean, each idea that you're presenting, each strength, each weakness that you're presenting should be proven, essentially. So a good way to go about it, it's not the only way, but a very good way, is to choose 2 or 4 stories. Probably won't be able to fit more because of the limits, and use them to illustrate the strengths and the weaknesses and factors which influence your development. So let's go on to the next slide, which is about the same question. We'll talk about a few other ideas. Admissionado tips for the personal essay. One thing that I like to do here a lot is to work backwards. What do I mean by work backwards? Is instead of thinking, okay, what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, and then having to dig for stories. Okay, what is the strength that I'm going to say? How am I going to prove that I'm a hard worker, or how am I going to prove that I'm whatever, that I'm clever, or how am I going to prove that I really need more work in being more meticulous? A nice way to go about it is to first think about, okay, what are my strongest stories? Aha, okay, so these are my strongest stories. Now I have my strongest stories. And what strengths and weaknesses do these stories show? And it can be a really, really good way to get out the stories that you need to get out and maximize the potential of what you have in your personal and work experience. And at the same time, to answer the question. Another nice method, which I think is very, very cool for this essay, is the umbrella method. Why do I call it the umbrella? Because it's having one story which encapsulates all of the others, like an umbrella, or covers all of the others. The best INSEAD personal essays, in my opinion, that I've seen can tie in the 2 or 3 or 4 stories to make one organic and holistic you. Meaning, you're telling them one strength and another strength and weakness, maybe 2 weaknesses, maybe a little personal story for a thing, the thing that influenced your development. But what happens when I put all these things together? I take the puzzle pieces, I put them together, and what do I get? And what we want to get is you, and this ties into what I was talking about earlier about coming alive, coming off the page, being you. And it can be a nice trick. It's not necessary, and there's other ways of going about it, but it's something that I like, and it's a nice tip. Next, don't be afraid of emotion. If you have a heartfelt story, tell it. I mean, this is a personal story. It's asking you about your life and professional as well as personal. So tell the personal story. It doesn't mean it has to be Oprah Winfrey show. Everybody has to cry at the end. You don't necessarily have to seek out pathos, although it can work very, very well. If it fits your being. But at the same time, don't be afraid of introspecting very, very deep and putting yourself on paper. Don't be afraid of humor either. I think from what I've seen in many, many applicants that I've worked with who apply to INSEAD, is that INSEAD is very open to people who have a little bit of a funny bone. So if it works out, if you're not funny, I would say steer clear from trying to be funny. But if you are, go for it, and maybe your consultant can help you, push it a little farther. And the last thing is think about how the rest of these stories fit in with the rest of your essays. Now, it's not an obligation in this essay that it leads to your goals directly, no. But, again, this idea of presenting this you in all of the essays that should come off the paper. So, how does it make sense with everything else that you're presenting? And how does it fit in? And how will it paint a clear and full picture of you? Logical, right? Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Aha! The achievement essay, very good. I think a very classic essay in many, many applications. Describe what you believe to be your 2 most substantial accomplishments to date. If possible, specify one personal and one professional, explaining why you view them as such. Okay, we have 2 targets here. Usually I say 1, I know I'm a little bit contradicting myself, but anyways, 2 targets. I should maybe make a new graphic that puts them together. Results and leadership. All right. Whatever leadership you have, try and get it out. And this is really one of the ideal places to get it out. You don't have to get the leadership out here. If you're getting it out in other places, maybe it fits into the personal essay better, or the culture shock essay better. Again, you have to fit it the essays for you and do what's best for you. But very often the leadership can work very, very well here. And the other thing is results. Essentially, your most substantial accomplishments to date will be defined by the results. So if you have an amorphous project that's very hard to pin down, even if you did a lot of work, it may not be the best story for you. Whereas if you have, I made a $2 billion deal, which was the deal of the decade. Wow, okay. Also very good are, in terms of results, are actually I kind of classify the results in 2 things. One thing I call project results, which is kind of like, making the deal, building the factory, whatever it is. And the other one I would call personal results, meaning, okay, maybe you have a long-term project, a consulting project that doesn't have necessarily results that you will see before 10 years. If you don't have that, then results would be like client feedback or boss feedback or getting a promotion or a raise or a bonus. These kind of things can be very, very good in the results side of things. So, more tips. Tip number 1 is choose the stories for this essay question first, meaning out of all the essay questions, maybe start with this essay even if it's number 2 of the job essay, of the regular essays, and actually number 5. And the reason is because it's kind of an essay where the answer can be very, very obvious, and it can be a lot easier to answer. So if possible, as instructed in the essay question, choose one personal and one professional story. If you have 2 professional stories that are much stronger and that don't fit elsewhere in the app, it's also okay. Again, you have to figure out what's best for you, but if the stories are much, much stronger, I would say go with the stronger stories rather than going with this one personal and one professional. focus on real concrete actions. So besides the results, in all of the stories that leads up to the results, we want concrete stuff that you did. So let's say you have a story where you're setting up a new factory in a foreign country. Okay, we want, I made a deal with this and this supplier. I, hired 200 people. There's kind of like bullet point actions that are concrete that we can understand it. Each action is promoting who you are and what you're doing, both from a business or from a personal point of view. And this is a way how, like, in every sentence you can get something out of your essay, even if it's super short. You have 200 words for each achievement about, and it can really be helpful. So good stories, like I mentioned before, are those with good results. If you don't have any results, it's going to be harder, well, not impossible, but a lot harder to pull a very strong story from it. And the last question, which you should be asking yourself actually as you choose your stories and as you write them, is how is this specific story that I'm telling right here proving that I can reach my goals? Again, you don't have to explicitly address your goals. You don't have to say, by the way, it's not asked here, so you can leave it on the side, but think about it. You can, again, build a much stronger argument that will build, kind of wave of force towards the goal essay, which is coming up relatively soon. Exciting, yeah? All right. I love this photo. The failure essay. Describe a situation taken from your personal or professional life where you failed. Discuss what you learned. Okay, do not be afraid to show a real failure. I see so many essays in first drafts where people are like, oh yeah, I did this, but it was because the markets were really bad. Or at the beginning it was a little bit hard, but by the way, I succeeded. Okay, this is not a setback essay. This is a failure essay, meaning you failed. So what I always tell people is fail, but fail grandly. Meaning you aren't going to climb the little hill in your backyard, you're going for Everest. And this is what we want. And the second thing is fail, but learn from it. You can fail, it's okay, it happens to everybody. You should take away some learning from it. And we'll talk, of course, more about that in the next slide, which is less funny, but maybe more useful. The failure essay. All right. A few tips here for you. Now, your failure can and should still highlight your skills. So what do we mean? And the trick here is in the action part of what you're doing. So you're not going to have great results in a failure. It's not possible. Otherwise, it's not a failure. But you could have amazing actions, meaning you may not have led your team of 25 to reach their yearly sales goal or beaten it, but you did lead a team of 25, and not many people are going to be able to say that. So in the little ones, the little actions that you did, or the big actions, I should say, that you did in this failure essay, you should be, with each step and each sentence, showing that, hey, I'm INSEAD MBA material. Next, identify a specific and a real failure. Introspect. What I mean by that is that, it shouldn't be a general weakness that you already had an essay for that. We want a story, concrete story here. This one time where X happened. Very, very important. I mentioned it, but I really want to emphasize and drive this point home. The failure should be yours, okay, and not circumstance, meaning it's not the market and it's not stuff that happened, and certainly not your bosses, and most certainly not your teammates. Meaning, big no-no here is to blame others. I've seen it crop up, and you catch it early, and you say, okay, let's think of another angle. Even if it can be true, we all have sometimes tough bosses or tough teammates, and I understand that as a consultant. But in an essay, it reads really badly, especially in a failure essay, which is asking about your failure. So it can look like you don't introspect. So let's think about, what did I do wrong? And this is our angle. Finally, to come to the learning point, when showing what you learned, you can prove through a very brief story at the end that you learned from it. It's optional. But it's something that can be a nice touch at the end, but you also don't have to do that. Maybe actually, let me go back and just talk about the learning one more. The other thing that you can do about the learning is that be specific. Don't write, oh yeah, I became a better businessman, or I became a better teammate. That doesn't mean anything. Use the actual story to prove what you learned from this failure. So, in this story, I failed because I wasn't able to delegate responsibilities to my team because I was a newbie. And now I understand that, I have to, step back, let people do what they can, let them make their mistakes, manage them, be an inspiring leader, and this is what I learned. Wow, okay, specific to the point, driving home. Very, very good. Okay, I have some. Let's go on to the next essay. The goal essay. All right. So, discuss your short and long-term goals. And B, how will studying at INSEAD help you achieve your vision? You're specific. We're hoping by this point your goals are specific, meaning you have a specific job at a specific place that you want, that you're going at, or a specific startup, or whatever they are. So your goals are the core of everything you're doing right now. What I mean is not just the essay or not just this presentation, but again, your goals are your passion, your dream, your hope, your vision. It's not just the technical story of your goals. Again, it's why you took the GMAT, why you're applying, and why INSEAD wants you. So remember, this whole thing revolves around your career, ultimately. You're not going to business school just to have fun, although you probably will at the same time. But it's about your goals. So our mantra, my goals are my core, my goals are my core, my goals are my core. Very good. Drive it home. Okay. Some tips. So it says, discuss your short and long-term goals. So discuss, not like over tea and toast. Doesn't mean just, okay, I'll do this and then I'll do that. Although it seems a little bit nonchalant as far as phrasing of the questions, we want to aim to get the most out of this question. So what they mean, really, underlying questions are, what are your goals? Why are these your goals? How do they connect to your past? Why do they logically lead you to an MBA? Now, that doesn't mean that you have to spend paragraph on these kind of questions that I'm putting here, because they are questions that INSEAD has chosen not to ask, and they are questions that do appear in other schools' essays. So, but they are fundamental basics for you to understand why you're doing what you're doing, and to also explain why you're doing what you're doing. So the first thing is specific goals in a specific industry and a specific company. I can't repeat this enough times. Specific roles in a specific industry and a specific company. Okay, 2 is enough, but be specific. No, I want to go into business, and no, I want a career in finance. It sounds like you don't know what you want. And also, no 2 goals. Or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. It also sounds like you don't know what you want. One specific goal. But beyond the goal, it's not just, okay, I want to work as an engagement manager in McKinsey and then become partner and then director. Okay, it's not just that. What is your vision? What's different about you? What do you feel? What's your unique take on the goals that you propose? How are you going to be different than all the other people who propose these goals? What do you see in the future? Very, very important, and kind of like, I would even call it the mystical part of the essay, if I may. Very, very important is to connect your goals to your past. That means, drawing a line from your past to what you want to do. Here you don't really have space, and they don't really ask, so you're not going to go through a 3-paragraph. But meaning, keep this in mind in function of all of the job essays that you're writing, and how the job essays that you have written make sense in function with this essay. If you are going for a goal change, it's a little bit trickier, but you still can address this. Okay. Then I would also say that your logic that you're using for what your goals are, and the discussion that you're making in this essay should be preparing us for part B. Meaning that you should already be thinking about what it is you expect to get from INSEAD that will help you reach your goals. Because, I don't know, if you want to be a shoe polisher and this is your goal, obviously INSEAD is not the place to go. So, that was a kind of ridiculous example, but you get the point. Okay, let's go to part B. Okay, part B, which is how will studying at INSEAD help you achieve your vision? Okay, why INSEAD does not mean why would any candidate apply to INSEAD, but why you, with your vision and your goals and your personality, are specifically applying to INSEAD. What I mean is that, especially in first drafts, of course, I see a lot of people like, okay, I want to apply to INSEAD because it's really international. Okay, but your goals are to work in a back office of a bank in London where you currently are based. So what exactly do you need an international school for? Good question. It's not unanswerable, and you have to think about it and answer it. Meaning that if your goal is to continue, let's say, working as a banker in London, you should say things like, oh, okay, but all of our work is with China more and more, and then I also travel to Switzerland 3 times a year, and so on and so forth, and I need this global experience. So it has a lot of specifics to do with what you propose to do, and by being so specific, then you are really making an argument. My first tip is that you should make specific mention of courses, professors, alumni, unique programs, unique aspects when linking your vision to what INSEAD can provide. Of course, if you visited, it's very, very, very helpful because you can talk more from the heart. If not, an MBA session is very, very good. If not, then do your research, speak to who you can, and try to find out what specifically will help you and your specific proposed goals. And again, this is why we focus so hard on getting these goals down pat and specific, because once you have them, it becomes so easy to, so much easier to make arguments based on what your goals are. Second thing is, when you explain why INSEAD, show them how they will help you realize your vision, meaning that you're going to INSEAD and you're proposing that you should go there, and they want to help you out, meaning they want to be the bridge that takes you from where you are now to super total success. And if they're helping you out, if their education is what's getting you there, they know that you're going to be a lot more thankful and appreciative and involved in the school, and it makes your education make sense. So it can be a very nice part of this essay. I already said the next bullet, so we can skip that. And the last thing is love the school. Yeah, love INSEAD. If you have a little bit of passion and love for it, they're going to feel it in the essay. No doubt about it. So if you put it in there, it will be helpful. It doesn't have to be, oh, I love INSEAD, but you have to be a little bit more clever than that, of course. But show it, show the feeling. The international essay. If anybody recognizes the picture, you get bonus points, and you can ask 2 questions later on. It's a film, little hint. Please choose one of the following 2 essay topics. Choice A is, have you ever experienced culture shock? What insights did you gain? Part B is, describe the ways in which a foreigner in your country might experience culture shock. If you have a story for A, answer A. Part B is a little bit tougher to answer, and it's likely to be less impactful because it's not actually something that you're doing or have done or have witnessed or have seen. It's a hypothetical question. So it's likely to be less impactful, although actually I've had a few clients who had some amazing, clever, funny, witty, interesting, surprising Part B. So, I don't totally, cross it out, but, usually SAA can be stronger for most candidates. All right, so let's call about culture shock. Again, culture shock is not cultural differences. It's not that the soup tastes different, or that the money's different, or that the weather is different, or anything like that. It's shock. So the story should be shocking. Electrical, zapping. You want the person to go, wow, when they read the story. So, for you to answer the question, it's very important to do that, to seek that out as much as possible. An ideal story for this question, if you have it, you don't always have it, but a story that I like to look for is a story which has international leadership with amazing results. I mean, if you're traveling to Thailand for 3 months and making a deal and leading a team of 15 people, there's no way it's going to be a bad story. especially if there's a really large and fun and crazy misunderstanding in the middle where the project almost falls through because you don't understand, let's say, the drinking rules of Thailand. So it has a lot of potential for becoming a super strong achievement essay with a very fun kind of take on it. You can also use personal stories as well as professional stories. They can work very, very well here. I've seen lots of great ones too. But please know, oh man, the food was too spicy. What a shock. Doesn't work. Or, I traveled to Austria and everybody had funny lederhosen. Okay, everybody travels nowadays. It's not that exciting, the fact that you've been abroad. So, you have to get over that and find something that will answer the question, meaning be shocking. And if you don't have an amazing shock, like I don't really know. I guess I would take an example of. I don't want to take any examples, but if you don't have something that's obviously shocking, you can find something that is kind of internally shocking without being, movie shocking, and requires a lot of thought and introspection. Next, like any kind of story where we're trying to get your stories out there, make it real by making it concrete. Even if you are being hypothetical in this, meaning even if you're taking question B, let us at least feel, smell, breathe the culture shock like a good movie. So in question B, it wouldn't be the culture shock you experience, but the hypothetical culture shock that the person who's coming would experience. So make it feel real. Don't just philosophize. And I like to write like a good movie because sometimes people feel like, okay, we don't know how to tell a story, but when you tell people a good movie, okay, they understand. There has to be a scene, something has to happen, there has to be smell and feeling. And as much as possible, promote yourself as a true global jet setter to fit with INSEAD. INSEAD is an international school, as we pointed out, in every aspect, and they look for international people. So again, if you haven't left your country, there are still ways to deal with this question in very clever and intelligent ways. So don't worry, you can still get into INSEAD. If you do have it, all the better. I think I maybe even said some of my tips for Culture Shock B, but we'll go over them quickly. First is to show awareness of how others might perceive your own culture. It's a lot harder than it may seem. Especially if you're trying to get beyond the stereotypes. So, you have to think about what are the strange or interesting things or the shocking things in your culture. And the best is to think about media, think about stories that you actually had. One time we had this meeting and I remember the Americans, they acted like, they were really shocked that that happened. And explain. Be creative. So think of a new or interesting way to present the info. A story, words in your language, drama, scene you witnessed, something that shows you're friends with important people. So, I was in a meeting with the Prime Minister and a group of Europeans came and this happened. The Prime Minister. Psh, very good. Next, pull real specific insights from your story. So try to avoid stereotypes. So no, I learned that cultures are different and I need to adapt, which is too general to be relevant. And no, I learned that all Indians, Americans, or Germans are like this. You can, talk about cultures, certainly, but be a little bit delicate and diplomatic, of course. Optional tip here, it's a prime candidate for funniness. So if you have a funny bone, maybe try and make it funny. And if they laugh so hard that they cry, they will remember your application. So it can be a nice little cherry. Optional essay. Is there anything that you have not mentioned in your application that you would like the admissions committee to know? Optional essay. What? Is the outcome giving me another opportunity to tell them more about me and I can write about whatever I want? Dude, use it. That's the only answer. If you aren't writing the optional essay, and it's an open optional essay, not only what problems do you have, but what else do you want to tell us, you have to use it, in my opinion. I mean, they're giving you an opportunity to present yourself more and better, and it's expected that you should use the maximum. So let's take a step back here. Instead of thinking about just what do I need or want to get out of it, think about what do I really want to tell them. Maybe it's something surprising, and who knows? If you have a strong story, amazing results, or strong leadership that you haven't yet used for whatever reasons, it doesn't fit in the essays, You should use it here. If you do use it, it should be new and different. So, if you have 3 good sales stories, 1 extra sales story is not going to, to make anything new. So try and think of something different. If you have an issue to address it here. So, low GPA, problems with recommenders, that you can't get a recommendation from your current boss, family issues, health issues. All these sorts of things can be addressed here. Don't be afraid to attack issues head-on, meaning, okay, my weakness is this, I want to address it. At the same time, don't apologize too much. I was so dumb, and I didn't study because I was too busy drinking, and that's why my GPA. It's not going to work. But, you can find a nice, sober middle. So, finally, or almost finally, we know the application is very, very long. Hopefully the webinar wasn't very, very, very long. And by now you are very tired, hopefully for the application, not for the webinar. But please, please use this essay. It will help you out. And, reapplicant essay. First time also that INSEAD is a reapplicant essay. 3 surefire steps to a successful INSEAD reapplication. Demonstrate that you have improved your candidacy. I should articulate. Demonstrate that you have improved your candidacy, and demonstrate that you have improved your candidacy. So, and the question, which comes a little bit later. So basically, in case of reapplication, please provide an update on any new aspects of your professional, international, academic, or personal profile that would not have been included in your previous application. Please also explain your motivation for reapplying to INSEAD. So, to repeat one last time, demonstrate that you have improved your candidacy. We'll give you a few tips how to do it. Of course, you have to do it specifically. Not surprisingly by now, I guess, for those who have been following the whole thing. So, more responsibilities. More responsibilities show advancement in achievement in your career. New achievements, likewise, very, very strong way to concretely prove that you have improved. More leads, meaning you are leading more people. Very, very strong here. New innovations, meaning you have innovated new projects, come up with more ideas, you've contributed to the office socially. All of a sudden, you're the party organizer for the office. Anything technical or personal. More volunteer work, especially important if it has been one of your weaknesses. I should also add, as a side point, one of the things that schools really, really love, and INSEAD is no exception, is that you show an awareness of what went wrong, what was your weakness, and a constant and hard effort to address these weaknesses. So, if you had, only 1 year of volunteer work, let's say last application, and you're right, okay, I know that I wasn't, good enough, and, because of this, my volunteer work wasn't strong enough, and I really worked on this year. I joined 2 more places, and I worked really hard. It will be greatly appreciated. Promotions, mega good, right, if it's there. Okay, I have some more bullet points on the right that are going to come up later, but so let me talk about those first. Additional entrepreneurship experience. If you have startup projects on the side, or consulting on the side, or entrepreneurship on the side, very, very good. Obviously, higher GMAT or higher TOEFL can be very helpful. Refocusing your goals, meaning if you have goals that are a little bit wishy-washy or didn't make sense, now's the time to do it and to explain why. More international experience, of course. Finding out more about INSEAD, showing that you love the school even more and even deeper, and you're still dedicated. And in general, you want to show, in this kind of bullseye that we illustrated, or that I illustrated before, which you're going towards your goals, you want to show that you are still bringing yourself closer to your goals despite the fact that you were not admitted. You didn't give up. You kept on hacking away at it, pushing away at it, and you still want to do it. So this is really the important thing, determination. And that's all, folks. Go get them. And it's been very, very, very lovely to be here to speak with all of you. Very, very soon we're going to move over to those chat boards, and you're going to have lots of opportunities to ask all the questions that you have about INSEAD, about the questions. And right now, let's go back to Eric, back to you, and thanks a lot.
Thanks very much, Jeroen. For those of you who may have joined us a little bit into this presentation, we've been listening to Jeroen Dehaan, who is the head consultant at Admissionado, walk us through the application essay questions for this year's 2012-2013 INSEAD application. So at this point, with the time remaining in this hour, Yaron is going to stick around and answer your questions live. So if you have a question about the INSEAD MBA application that you'd like to ask to Yaron and would like to get a response to today, feel free to post your question as a new comment right here on the INSEAD MBA Watch comment wall page. This is going to be a moderated chat, so when you post your question, our team is going to review it and publish as many questions as we can one by one for Yaron to answer. So again, a very huge thank you to Yaron Dehan for walking us through his analysis of this year's INSEAD MBA application essay questions, and also to our co-host at Admissionado. Definitely check out admissionado.com after this session. And also, thank you so much to our BTGMAT community members for coming out tonight and joining us for this session. And we hope that you will join us for some future MBA Watch events that are coming up, as well as more sessions from this Write Like an Expert series. So thanks again, guys, and we'll take your questions right now.